stock market operators and so on. So today, I'll first give you what I can call the highlight and then get into the details. We today propose to slash the corporate tax rates for domestic companies and also for new domestic manufacturing companies. There are other fiscal reliefs also which we are bringing about. And this set of amendments are being brought about in the taxation laws through an ordinance which we will pass, which is actually passed only probably a couple of minutes ago. And these amendments to the Income Tax Act 1961 and the Finance No. 2 Act of 2019. I'll now give you the salient features of what these proposed tax rate cuts are. Number one, in order to promote growth and investment, a new provision has been inserted in the Income Tax Act with effect from fiscal year 2019-20, which allows any domestic company an option to pay income tax at the rate of 22%, subject to condition that they will not avail any exemptions or incentives. The effective tax rate for these companies shall be 25.17%, inclusive of all surcharges and cess. So the effective tax rate for these companies shall be 25.17%, inclusive of all surcharge and cess. An important aspect here to add is also such companies shall not be required to pay any minimum alternative tax. No MAT on them. No MAT will be applicable on them. So this is the first. The second, in order to attract fresh investment in manufacturing and thereby provide a boost to Make in India, another provision has been inserted to the Income Tax Act with effect from fiscal year 2019-20, which allows any new domestic company incorporated on or after 1st October 2019, making fresh investment in manufacturing an option to pay income tax at the rate of 15%. This benefit is available to companies which do not avail any exemptions or incentives and commences their production on or before 31st March 2023. So they should commence production on or before 31st March 2023. So new companies which are getting incorporated 1st October 2019 or after, which also commences its production on or before 2023, 31st March, can avail of this at 15% rate. The effective tax rate for these companies shall be 17.01%, inclusive of all surcharge and cess. Again, in this case too, also, such companies shall not be required to pay any MAT. I move to the third. the effective tax rate for these companies shall be 17.01%, inclusive of all surcharge and cess. 17.01%. And also again, such companies shall not be required to pay any MAT. I move to the third. A company which does not opt for the concessional tax regime and avails the tax exemption or the incentives shall continue to pay tax at the pre-amended rate. However, these companies can opt for the concessional tax regime after expiry of their tax holiday or exemption period. So if they are already enjoying some exemptions and also some tax holidays, and if they would want to continue in that, they have a choice to do so. But if they want, that is, if they want to continue with the existing exemptions, that's an option we are giving. However, these companies can opt for the concessional tax regime after the expiry of their tax holiday or the exemption period. So once their exemptions, which they are enjoying now, are all expired, they can opt to move on to this regime which we are announcing today. After the exercise of the option, suppose their period is over, concessional and exemption period is over, the tax holiday is over, they opt to come over to this regime. After the exercise of the option, they shall be liable to pay tax at the rate of 22%, which is what is announced today, and option once exercised cannot be subsequently withdrawn. That's just to make sure that you can't keep flip-flopping. Further, in order to provide relief to companies which continue to avail exemptions and incentives, suppose those who are enjoying some concessions, some tax holidays, want to continue in it and not opt for this new 22% rate, even for them we are giving a MAT relief. And that MAT relief is this, which I'm reading now. Further, in order to provide relief for companies which continue to avail exemptions and incentives, the rate of minimum alternative tax has been reduced from the existing 18.5% to 15%. So,
this applies for all the companies today?
1 minute, let me finish the whole thing and then you can. I move to the next. In order to stabilize the flow of funds into the capital market, it is provided that enhanced surcharge introduced by Finance Number 2 Act of 2019 I'll read it again. In order to stabilize the flow of funds into the capital market, it is provided that the enhanced surcharge which was introduced by the Finance Number 2 Act of 2019, the budget of July 2019, shall not apply on capital gains. The enhanced surcharge shall not apply on capital gains arising on sale of equity share in a company or a unit of a equity-oriented fund or a unit of a business trust liable for securities transaction tax in the hands of an individual, HUF, AOP, BOI and AJP. I'll read this paragraph all over again. In order to stabilize the flow of funds into the capital market, it is provided that the enhanced surcharge introduced by the Finance Number 2 Act 2019 shall not apply on capital gains arising on sale of equity share in a company or a unit of an equity-oriented fund or a unit of a business trust liable for securities transaction tax in the hands of an individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, and AJP. So that's the fourth. I move to the fifth. The enhanced surcharge shall also not apply to capital gains arising on sale of any security, including derivatives, in the hands of foreign portfolio investors. That paragraph again. The enhanced surcharge shall not apply to capital gains arising on sale of any security, including derivatives, in the hands of foreign portfolio investors. I move to the next. Repeat that. I repeat the fifth point. The enhanced surcharge shall also not apply to capital gains arising on sale of any security, including derivatives, in the hands of foreign portfolio investors. Shall I move to the next? In order to provide relief to listed companies which have already made a public announcement, I repeat, in order to provide relief to listed companies which have already made a public announcement of buyback before 5th July 2019, it is provided that tax on buyback of shares, it is provided that tax on buyback of shares in case of such companies shall not be charged. Can I move to the next and the last? The government has also decided to expand the scope of CSR 2% spending, the CSR 2% spending. Now, CSR 2% fund can be spent on incubators funded by central or state governments or any agency or public sector undertakings of central and state governments, and making contributions to public funded universities, IITs, national laboratories, and autonomous bodies, all which are established under the auspices of ICAR, and ICMR, CSIR, DAE, DRDO, DST, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, all of which is included. Engaged in conducting science, research in science, technology, engineering, medicine aimed at promoting SDGs. So that is something which comes out of the CSR, the Companies Act, but others were all related to income tax. So the ordinance will not include this CSR bit, but I've just put that in here also so that it all comes in one place. The last and the most important line which you will be interested in knowing is the total revenue foregone. Right? The total revenue foregone. You want to know it or shall I skip it? The total revenue foregone for the reduction in corporate tax rate and other reliefs is estimated 1,45,000 crores per year. All right? All this is applicable this fiscal, so obviously it will have an impact. So that is my announcement prior to going into the GST.
Ma'am, how would you plan to meet your revenue targets given such a high revenue foregone? Already we are seeing falling collections in both direct and indirect taxes. GST collections are not looking good. How do you plan to meet the two targets? Already you revised your target from the interim budget in the budget you announced.
Timsy, thank you. Wait a minute. Thank you, Timsy. We want to have more investments and make in India, which itself means a lot more investment, lot more employment generation, lot more economic activity, as a result of which economy will give us more revenue. So this is not just a debate in terms of, oh my God, you've got this problem, your revenue collection, and therefore would you not want, don't do it or do it, is not the option. In order to strengthen Make in India, obviously.
Ma'am, the markets are definitely cheering the move today. Immediately, we've seen the markets positively reacting to the developments today. I want to ask you the fact that you've said that there's going to be a positive impact on the economy as well. But what about the fiscal targets that the government has set out of 3.3% for this year as well? And also with this move, we've come almost in line with the other Asian peers as well. So how do you look to compete, and in which sectors are we looking at competing now in terms of manufacturing?
First of all, and that's the reason why you wanted to join Tim C on that first question, the idea is economic buoyancy will itself generate enough reasons for better income revenue generation. One. Second, the moment the taxes are brought down, you're also expected to widen the basket. So that is another reason why I think we will definitely be having a positive impact on the revenue collection. Yes, you're right in saying now we are almost at par with many of the Asian and Southeast Asian countries in terms of the corporate rate taxes. So as a result, when you're looking at the comparative rates, today we are probably one of the lowest and at par with the lowest in Southeast Asian countries. So I would like to again sort of remind, the rate at which we are now going to tax is 22%. And then for the oldest established companies, for the newer investments which are coming, 15% is what the slab is, the rate is. And therefore, when you calculate and other things, added surcharge and all that, you have different decimal points also getting added. But it is 22 and 15. 22 for existing and 15 for those who are coming in who will manufacture before 23. So that itself, 22 and 15 are the two numbers which I would like to drive home. 22 and 15 are going to now draw more new investments because of the 15 and make people who want to expand on their existing businesses, 22 should stand out. And that would be comparable with the lowest rates in this region and in Southeast Asia.
Good morning, ma'am. This is Girish from Mint. My question is, what are the conditions for availing the 22% corporate tax?
Well, do you want to explain?
Yes. Actually, only condition is that they should not be claiming any other exemptions. For example, today what kind of exemptions and deductions we give? For example, an unit is located in SEZ, or somebody is getting an accelerated depreciation. Somebody is spending in the R&D and some other fund. So in such cases, the companies who are such placed that after availing the such tax exemptions and deductions, if their tax rate comes less than 22%, then that company would not opt for this. However, those companies which are not claiming any deductions, so today they are also paying 30% tax rate. So now they will be taxed at only 22%. And so far as the new manufacturing companies are concerned, there the basic tax rate is 15%.
Yeah, that is why I said if you don't use any of the exemptions given, you're eligible for 22. Right?
I would just like to add here that those companies who are using exemptions, and as announced by Madam just now, that let us say their exemption period is over. Sometimes exemptions are given, certain deductions are given for certain number of years. So once that period is over, then that same company can switch to this new tax regime and pay at 22%.
So the moment the expiry happens, you can opt to come into this and benefit from 22%.
Ma'am, I'm asking you a local question. Basically, Goa economy is also slowed down because of iron ore mining has come to an halt. It was, Goa was exporting highest in the country. So anything you are looking at it, restarting of mining activities in the state?
Well, on that I know there was a group of ministers who have met. In fact, the Chief Minister of Goa had come and participated in it. So the group of ministers have made some progress and they are discussing with a keen interest to restore something for Goa. So that is definitely on the agenda.
Ma'am, what is the effective rate of corporate tax today? One. Two, these incentives for the new manufacturing companies, is it open-ended or is there a period for which it is available? Is there a sunset period? And three, are we sticking to the fiscal deficit target that you have fixed for this year, despite all, you've announced a lot of measures which will have spending as well as tax implications. So are we sticking to the target for the year?
First of all, on the fiscal deficit,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I can see each one of you really adding that as one another question that you want to ask. Yes, we are conscious of the impact all this will have on our fiscal deficit. And also earlier once, I remember one of you asking me, you had mentioned different rates in the budget time on the nominal GDP growth. Now, therefore, the numbers are different now. How are you going to look at it? We are quite seized of all these details. We will be, as I said earlier, we will be taking all of them on board to reconcile as to how the situation is now and how we want to take it forward. We are not oblivious of these developments. And as regards the real, rate, effective rate, the current effective rate and these rates, I'll request the Revenue Secretary to detail it out for you. No sunset.
Yes. I will just like to...
so in other words, open-ended.
Yeah, mention here that in India we had a current corporate tax rate was 30%. Now that rate has been brought down to 22%. Similarly, for new manufacturing companies, the tax rate was 25%. Now that has been brought down to 15%. So this is the major tax reduction which has happened from 30% to 22%, from 25% to 15%. And also one very important thing, that is the MAT rate, current MAT rate. The company which will be taxed at the rate of 22% will not have to pay any MAT because they would not claim any exemptions. Because earlier regime, one used to hear that whenever you have a lower tax rate, then in that or a certain exemptions, then one ended up paying minimum alternate tax, MAT, and that used to be 18.5% plus surcharge. Now that rate has been brought down to 15%. So this is the extent and magnitude of the tax cut which has happened. Yes, the effective rate. So let us say a company who was in the 30% tax bracket. Now 30% tax bracket along with the surcharge, it was going up to 34.94%. Now, because the basic rate itself has been brought down to 22%, then along with the surcharge, and we have also brought down the surcharge from 12% to 10% there. So this 22% basic rate and along with the surcharge, the effective rate is only 25%, 25.17%. So there also it is approximately 10 percentage basis points from 34.94% to 25.17, almost 10% basis points that has been brought down. Now, so far the new manufacturing companies are concerned, there the basic tax rate used to be 25, and there along with the surcharge and cess, it used to go up to 29.12%. Now, for the new manufacturing company which gets incorporated after 1st October 2019
And starts manufacturing before 23.
March 23, the basic rate itself has been brought down by 10%, that is 15%. That along with the surcharge will pay only 17.01%, and so there the decrease is 12% basis point, 12% basis point. So in the effective rate, the reduction for the most of the companies, the entire corporate world, which do not take any exemption, the percentage basis reduction is almost 10%. For the new manufacturing company, the percentage reduction basis is 12%, more than 12%. So far the MAT is concerned, the earlier MAT rate was 18.5%, and that along with the surcharge again used to go between 21 and 22% depending upon what was the tax, what was the tax volume. Now that basic MAT rate itself has been reduced to 15, so that along with the surcharge is again coming somewhere around 17%.
Ma'am,
Just one.
When we talk about the exemption also, then what will be the effective rate? So you said the cess and surcharge, you add to 34%, 30 to 34%.
Exemptions vary, right?
27. So if we take the exemption, then what will be the effective rate?
See, it is not possible to come out with a uniform figure. Why? Because different companies take different exemptions. A company engaged in a particular type of business, they get some different exemptions. A company located in a particular geographical area will get a different exemption. A company engaged in a certain activity, they get different exemptions. So all those exemptions category company, if they can continue to avail those exemptions and pay tax at the old rate, and when their exemptions sunset, they can come back to this new tax regime, because whichever is beneficiary, they will, they can choose this, and accordingly, they can start paying tax. So overall, the main point is that this tax reduction, the basic tax rate has been reduced from 30% to 22%, 25% for the new manufacturing company to 15%, and if you consider the surcharge, then and the cess, there the percentage basis reduction is, in case of a new manufacturing company, it is more than 12%, and so far as the other companies are concerned, there the percentage basis is from 34.94% to 25%.
Ma'am, Sumit from Financial Express, are these rate cuts in line with direct tax code report that was submitted earlier? And if yes, then that report also recommended drastic cuts for personal income tax. So what was the consideration behind tax rate cuts for corporate and nothing for PIT?
Well, all right. The details of the recommendations will come out sometime. You'll get to know. At the moment, we've come up with this. And essentially, as I said, to give a boost for Make in India and for newer and fresher, both domestic and foreign investments. One minute, Deepshika. I think the hand was shown.
Thank you. Now, what impact do you see of today's measures and earlier measures announced apparently to boost like consumer demand and investments on the economic growth in the coming quarters? And secondly, so do you have any plans to review the import tariffs also as demanded by the industry?
Well, today I'm announcing this. Review of import tariffs and other things are also commerce, in a process of consultation. So we will also take them on board if there is anything that they suggest. So that's a different story. But today we have come up with this essentially to draw investment both within the country and also attract investments from outside.
Ma'am, two questions.
1 minute. I'll go by the PIBs.
Ma'am, what is the objective of expanding scope for this CSR and government autonomous bodies and all those things? Because the government itself can fund these things, right?
No, 1 minute, 1 minute. Government can fund, and it does. It is doing. And it will also increasingly do more. But today, because there is a need for fairly large investments and large money to be given for R&D, we are opening up CSR window also. It is not that government is drawing CSR money into government. Government recognized institutions is what is the idea there. IIT receives fund from government, but it is not a government institution in that sense. It is funded by government, but it is an autonomous institution for engineering and technology. So if there is a science and technology with an SDG slant, related R&D work which is being done there, CSR money can also go there, is the emphasis.
Yeah, I will just add, Rajesh ji, I will just add to this CSR fund. It is not only the question of spending by a government body. Let us say there is a private pharma company and they want to conduct some research in pharmaceuticals. Now that 2% money can be spent, they can assign their research or they can do their research in coordination with, let us say, ICMR or the National Chemical Laboratory or the IITs, and then they can get their own research done along with such institutions and derive benefit out of it.
Ma'am, two questions. This 15% tax cut which has been announced, will foreign investors who are looking to set up manufacturing facilities in India, will they be eligible to avail this exemption? And second question is, what is the thinking on the exemptions that are there? Will the phase out continue? Are you going to aggressively pursue phasing out of tax exemptions which are there since corporate tax rate has been cut?
Well, as regards the foreign investors, if they have an establishment here, or if they join in equity for an Indian company, yes, they will be. They should literally have an office and run the business from here. Then they are eligible. And as regards exemptions, other than what we have talked about, the larger idea is, in any case, to simplify, rationalize, and make the whole process, even the process simpler, other than the rates also. But therefore, the larger principle is exemptions will have to progressively be brought down.
I'm just taking that forward. Vikas Dhoot from the Hindu. It's great that you're moving away from giving people exemptions and reducing the overall tax rate effective on them. But on the other side, are you also looking at a roadmap for reducing surcharges and cesses over?
I've answered that already.
Secondly, is there an internal assessment that you've made on the kind of impact these steps could have on the investment rate in the economy?
Well, at this stage, I'll only say this much. Whatever we have done at this stage, I'm not disclosing anything more.
Ma'am, I'm Nikunj Ohri from Bloomberg Quint. Two questions. Did the government make an estimate as to what impact would these corporate tax reductions have on the fiscal deficit? It's being said that the impact is around 75 basis points. So will this be a shift from the government's earlier fiscal consolidation path, and are you going to review the fiscal deficit target? And my second question is a reiteration of the previous question that was already asked. Are these corporate tax rate reductions for a shorter period of time, or this would continue for the
I've
longer
already
run?
answered both your questions.
Ma'am, the estimate that
I've answered that, just the one before about it.
Ma'am, from which quarter will these new rates apply? Because you, for the second announcement, you said after 1st of October, already a quarter has gone by, people have paid their advance taxes also. From which quarter all these announcements kick in this fiscal per se? And secondly, as there was a roadmap earlier to reduce the corporate tax rate for all to 25%, we've seen already 99.3% companies availing it. So that phase out remains excluded by these announcements. But exemptions, as Deepshika also pointed out, continue. But by when will these exemptions also phase out?
Okay, fine. You have not asked a question, so you can with that.
Hi ma'am, Audrija here from Cogensis. Ma'am, even though the stock markets are cheering, the 1.45 trillion rupees revenue foregone has had a negative impact in terms of reaction from the bond market. Do you see the revenue foregone having an impact or reflecting in the borrowing for the second half of the year?
All right, I'll ask the Revenue Secretary to answer, Timsy.
So far as these tax reductions are concerned, they will apply from this current financial year, that is from 1st April 2019. Any advance tax paid, that will get adjusted when they pay the next advance tax. And so far as the exemptions and the phasing out is concerned, this is exactly the method of phasing out. In the sense,